Hello, everyone. This is Zippi Livnen, nurse and certified food addiction counselor, and welcome to Zippi Live, my weekly vlog, every Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. Israel time, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. I go live on Facebook and discuss a subject which hopefully will give you some tools, motivation, tips, and just discussion for people who want to really limit their intake or maybe completely get off sugar and hyperprocessed foods. And I want to talk about that today because an article recently came out in a site called Doctors Only, which is meant for doctors. And it talked about the fact that here in Israel, we spend 29 billion shekels a year treating diabetes. 29 billion shekels, when most of that disease is caused by what we are eating, which means that the real treatment for that disease is in our supermarkets and at our and at our vegetable markets and fresh produce. And the real treatment for, especially for type 2 diabetes, is not medication. It is something that needs no prescription, doesn't have any side effects, is not expensive, and is probably in your local neighborhood. So it makes one stop and think a minute. But you know what? A lot of the people who call me to ask for help or to find out about my program, GPS to Sugar Free, which is a sugar detox and helping people get free and of building a new relationship with food and also detoxing from the foods that are addicting them. The people who call me, most of the people who call me, tell me, first of all, most of them usually have some kind of overweight or obesity or some kind of metabolic disease, like prediabetes, or they're diabetic, or they have hypertension. And what they say to me is that what they suffer from most, more than their big body, more than the side effects of obesity, more than the fear of what's going to happen because I have diabetes or I'm pre-diabetic, or if I keep eating this way, I'm going to become diabetic or I'm going to become ill from the way that I'm eating. More than that fear or what they suffer from most, more even than that, is this feeling that they can't control what they're eating. Many of the people who call me are very capable people who have accomplished a lot in their lives. I have one client, he is the owner and manages a very successful furniture factory. I have had clients who are doctors and nurses and mental health professionals. You can't say these people don't know or don't understand the consequences of what they're doing, and yet they're eating, they have diabetes, and they're eating sugar like there's no tomorrow. And if you're watching this video and you're saying, well, then they should just stop, this video is not for you. And I'm very glad for you that you can control what you eat. But what many of my clients and the people who call me tell me that they suffer from more than anything is that feeling of loss of control. That they know what they're supposed to do. They know the consequences of not doing it or doing exactly the opposite, and they can't control what goes into their mouth. Like they have no choice. I completely understand that feeling because that's how I lived until about 25 years ago. But here's the paradox. Actually, the foods that these people are trying to control are exactly the foods that are causing their loss of control. I'm going to say that again. It's exactly the foods that these people are trying to control that are causing the lack of control. Because sugary, starchy, hyper-processed foods, right? Some people can have just a little and be done. These are the people, for example, people who are overweight, but don't really feel a complete loss of control. Many times they can maybe have like, I don't know, a treat or whatever it is, once a week so that they don't feel deprived or what have you. But people who really have experienced over a long period of time this absolute inability to control their eating when it comes to these sugary, starchy, hyper-processed foods, especially, and they're feeling like all the time like this mental negotiation, right? And what do I eat and not eat? And this like sort of like wanting and needing and even like I don't want it, but I can't not take it, right? That kind of a feeling. These are the people who really have to realize that sugary, starchy, hyperprocessed foods work in the brain in such a way that there are some people who are sensitive to that addictive pull. And then when they eat these foods, they're absolutely unable to control how much they eat. Instead of it, like, sort of, if there's this wanting, right, this desire to have it, they want to have it, then instead of it actually, like when they actually eat it, instead of that, like, it making that wanting to have it go away, it just brings it on even more. And then what happens is that urge to eat develops into what's called a craving. When craving develops, then then really what happens is there's no choice. Your choice is actually taken away from you, because when the phenomenon of craving comes in, then even people who don't want to eat, they know that it's really dangerous for them and they can't stop eating anyway. In order to solve this problem, what needs to be done is to stop eating the foods or trying to control the foods that they are the ones that are causing the lack of control. And the way to do that really for many, many people is to just abstain from those addictive, sugary, starchy, hyper-processed foods. Not to try and have a little, like and be like everyone. But maybe your brain works differently from other people. Mine does, for sure. There are some things that I can consume in a controlled way. Not junk food. I can't. When it comes to a chocolate, I'm like a drug addict. Like, one is too much and a million is never enough. And when you recognize that, so then people get in a panic. What? Like, never have ice cream again? Never have cake again? But here's the funny part, right? Many, many people, when they start abstaining from them completely, all of a sudden realize that they don't have to have it, because that feeling of craving goes away. But in order for it to be able to really abstain long term, there needs to be two processes done. One is the physical. That is the physical detox from those addictive foods that cause the loss of control, and stop trying to control them. But in parallel to that, there has to be really a deep internal change in the dialogue with food to build a healthy relationship with food, right? To learn to love foods that love you back. I did a live a couple of weeks ago where I talked about this, where, we all have an emotional relationship with food. That doesn't mean that anybody who can't control their food intake means they're an emotional eater. To have an emotional eating is basically like an eating disorder. And many times the root cause of it is the emotional problems that this person has. Whereas people who but we all have some kind of emotional connection to food, right? People who are under stress, right? And in order to relieve that stress, if somebody smokes and they light a cigarette to relieve the stress, we don't call them an emotional smoker, right? So not all people who eat over their feelings are emotional eaters. It could be that they might be addicted. And then like their automatic brain just says, well, if I eat something, I'll feel better. But we all do have some kind of emotional connection to food. I mean, the first the first expression of love that a baby gets is being fed by his mother. So of course we have an emotional connection to food. And that's why sometimes what happens is that an unhealthy relationship develops. And I sort of compared, like maybe you've had experienced this where you had a friend who maybe even you had a close relationship with someone. And at some point, that someone decided they don't want that close relationship with you anymore, right? Maybe they rejected you. Maybe they even insulted you or hurt you. Um, but certainly they turned their backs on you. And they do not want that close, nice, warm, fuzzy relationship anymore. How long are you going to keep running after that person and trying to please them and get them to love you again and love you back and be close to you again like it used to be? At some point, usually what people will do is say, you know what? There has to be a mutual, right, give and take here. There has to be a mutual love. And if that person is not giving me love back, then maybe it's time to cut the cord. Maybe it's time to end this relationship. And that is what I say. Sometimes we need to end our relationship with these foods that do not love us back and you know, just disconnect and stop trying to build a relationship that's not going to happen. So, at one point, do we realize that? So, my message to you is that if you've been struggling with control over food and you really feel like this is causing you suffering, like you're suffering from that feeling of loss of control, of lack of control, which is one of the hallmarks of addiction, actually, then maybe exactly the foods that you're trying to control are those foods that are causing you to get into this spiral of lack of control. And then it might just be time to try a detox and really abstaining from these foods and not keep trying to have a little and then failing again and again. That is exactly what I do with my clients. I take them through the physical detox on the one hand to learn how to eat foods that love foods that love you back, but on the other hand also to change that internal dialogue, that mental make that mental shift towards having a more healthy relationship with food and learning really to change the way we think about foods, feel about foods, talk to ourselves about our food intake and really change the way we behave in this environment, which really is not exactly inducive to healthy eating, just exactly the opposite. So if you are watching this video and you feel that this is a journey that you would like to take, please reach out. And second of all, if you maybe are watching this and you think of a family member or a friend who you think that it's important for them to see this video, well, then please pass it on. And if you're watching this on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram or on my Facebook, please like my page and follow me along. And I would just want to wish all of you a very wonderful day, evening, morning, whatever time it is, and wherever you're living at this time. And I would like to wish us all really the freedom that we all deserve, whether it be with food or with any other facet of our life. So I'll see you again next week, Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, 4:30 Israel time on Zippi Live. Have a great week. Bye-bye.